Thank you. All right. Now we can get into our open microphone. Did we have anybody registered for that? Perfect. All right, we have 3 people registered for the open mic. We have Lisa Lewis. Mic's on, Councillor Billingsley. Perfect.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Lisa Lewis.
Just make sure you're speaking right into the mic. Yeah, thank you.
I'm here on behalf of my mom, Helen Bush. The purpose of my being here is to have her garbage removal service stopped at her residence at 4321 53rd A Street. She is now residing in extended care nursing home in Leduc as of the 19th of September. And prior to that, she was in Wetaskiwin Hospital from the 21st of February. Obviously, she will not be returning home, and there is no one living in the residence. All utilities are being turned off pending the sale of residence. That will happen once my sisters and I get the trustee and guardianship, which is, we've been informed, is going to be another 6 to 8 weeks to be processed. In the meantime, I'm just trying to eliminate all bills that are no longer necessary. That concludes my statement, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Do we have your contact information, phone number and that?
You do have my address, but not my phone number.
Can you, I'm gonna have administration just follow up with that, and then I'll have them contact you if that's okay. If you want to just come give me your phone number,
Absolutely.
please. Next, we have Audrey Bannister. Good morning.
Good morning. I feel like I'm in the hot seat every time I sit here. Anyway, I've got a few things I'd like to bring up. Since the last meeting when I was here, I've had people call my office, business people. I've had ladies in their 70s and 80s scared to leave their homes because they have drug houses next to them. They've brought videos into me to show me that they have pictures. Even some have had to change their way of living inside their home, like moving their bedrooms and things because of the traffic and things that go on. We were promised a city hall meeting, which didn't happen. It turned out to be a virtual meeting, which after about 45 minutes I had to turn off. I understand that it went to a virtual meeting because some of the councilmen or women were scared for their safety if they went to the public meeting. And I guess what upsets me is that they are in fear of the hardworking, law-abiding, tax-paying citizens of Wetaskiwin. which upset me. And I would like to know, if they're so scared of us that pay your wages, how do you feel about the drug dealers, the drug addicts, the alcoholics, the homeless, and the criminals? You've put us all in that same category by saying that you were scared of us and wouldn't have a meeting, open meeting with us. So that's upsetting, especially when we pay your wages. The other thing is, I did some research on the title of the property. The land that was being subdivided was 7.36 acres. A new title was created on September 20th for 2.99 acres, which I understand we've been told that was dedicated to the homeless shelter, and that basically it was in their name. It is not in their name. As of Friday, it was still in the city's name. And I think people don't understand the concept, because I deal with it every day in my work. When I tell a person this house is 1,200 square feet or whatever, they don't understand. Well, I want to clarify a little bit. If you go to the old city hall, look at the size of it, plus the garages, that's the size of the building they want to put down on that property. 17,000 square feet plus. And I want to know why so much land was dedicated to it. 2.99 acres, that's a lot of land. Again, if you go downtown and look at the site where the old city hall is, takes 6 times, almost 6 times that land. That's how much is dedicated or supposed a proposal for the homeless shelter. So why did we have to dedicate that much land if there isn't something down the road looking at adding on to it? And when I was in a meeting at the swimming pool here last week, I think it was, there was a fellow from Hope Mission. And I asked him how many they serve in a night there. And he didn't have to think about it, because every time I've been in a meeting or talked to somebody, we've never gotten exact numbers. They're always different. Every time it's a different number. He come out within seconds and said 700 a night. Well, they're serving 700 a night for the hundreds of thousands of people in Edmonton. And we're going to be serving, supposedly, the last number was 125 plus a bunch of other beds. So 1/3 of that for a city that's 12 to 13,000 and declining in population. So I don't see why we have to have anything. The shelter run quite well when it was at the Wayside Chapel for years and years. And now all of a sudden it went to City Hall, then it went to Rock Soup, and now all of a sudden we have this humongous building proposed. I don't understand why. Why do we need to be the center of all the homeless, the drug dealers? Because when you have homeless, you have drug dealers. When you have drug dealers, the homeless. It's a vicious circle. And I don't understand why. Now, there were a few comments made back about there was crime before you became mayor, and that you had worked in the funeral home and you had worked on the fire department. True. But I think if a person really looks, in the last 6 years, every one of these things, drugs, fire, theft, alcohol, homeless, everything has increased over the last while. And I guess I just want some questions answered, because I don't see why we need to have such a huge center here. And you're throwing us to the wolves. My understanding, the rumor mill is that after you're done, you're going to be moving, and that you have an agenda for a politician. So I really feel it's going to be an Andrew that you're going to be gone. Okay? And leave us with the mess. Because there's also been comments out there when people have called you about things, and I don't know whether they're true, they're rumor, that about the handy bus. A lady asked you about it, and you basically were told, or she was told, now, again, I don't know if it's fact, you know how the rumor mill is, that you didn't really care what was going to happen because you didn't have long to spend here. Okay, so I'm just bringing up some of the things that's
I
out
love
there.
the rumors that happen to circulate throughout the community.
Okay.
If I didn't know what I did last weekend, all I have to do is turn on social media and somebody will tell me
So-
what I did.
Anyway, we've raised our kids here, all of you have. Your families, your grandkids have all been raised here. I think, I'm hoping with these meetings that we've wakened the gentle giant here and people will speak out about it. Because Wetaskiwin does not need a 17,000 square foot homeless shelter that run for years at the Wayside Chapel, which would fit inside this room. And I don't see what good it would do us. Like, you're throwing us under the bus for what? Because you can say you did it? I totally don't understand why you have such a commitment to throw Wetaskiwin to the wolves when you were raised here and your family. So that's my questions, and the same with council. Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you. I know, my leg's so working.
Next, we have Debbie Hunker. Morning.
Good morning. Well, I guess if this is a hot seat, I guess it's from the frying pan into the fire, hey? In Mayor Gandam's October 11th Facebook post, he said, "I am very curious as to why, other than being the mayor, I'm the one to blame for everything you feel wrong with Wetaskiwin. In order for a motion to pass, 4 people need to agree to it." That's true. And I'm going to remind you all, and the voters watching at home, what your obligations as councillors are. Now, you have no doubt read what every councillor needs to know, a council handbook, or council member handbook. I have read it as well, and I have some information from it that needs to be emphasized. I hope that the teachers in the room will appreciate that I have done my homework and that my reading and comprehension is top-notch. I will quote directly from the handbook. On page 2, the purposes of a municipality are C, to develop and maintain safe and viable communities. A council then goes on, a council is responsible for section 2011, A, developing and evaluating the policies and programs of the municipality. Council's primary role is to ensure that services are provided to citizens and property owners. This involves establishing policies about the programs and services that are to be delivered, the level at which they are delivered, and the budgetary requirements. Council evaluates the policies and programs through the information obtained from the CAO and feedback from the citizens. Now, the last paragraph on page 7. These are the things that a councillor must know to do their job with integrity. The remainder of this booklet provides information on other aspects of the legislation that a councillor should be aware of to ensure your municipality is accountable to the taxpayer. As a councillor, you are elected to look after the interests of the entire municipality. Council's effectiveness depends on you providing input as a representative of the people who elected you. End of quote. Now, I know that there has been a perceived need regarding the original 20 unhoused, give or take. But I think that most of us would agree that the solutions have actually exacerbated the problem. Exacerbated, sorry. Outsiders have been coming in to take advantage of the services. We know this growth in homelessness is true. I would challenge council to provide to convince me that this was actually an emergency need, not just some virtue signaling Band-Aid for an ongoing community nuisance. Let's clarify what this proposed structure really is and what it is not. What it is not is a true emergency shelter. The Oxford Dictionary defines an emergency as a serious, unexpected, and often dangerous situation requiring immediate action. Now, according to the folks at Hope Mission, they don't take away any illegal drugs or weapons because if they did, people wouldn't come there. Well, I came from a home where if you didn't eat what Mom made for supper, you weren't hungry enough. The same can be said for an emergency shelter. If it isn't urgent enough that they are willing to give up their illegal items to enter, then it certainly isn't an emergency. What this structure will be is a continuation of a flop house for addicts, only with more capacity. Now, looking at it from a purely cynical point of view, Hope Mission gets funding based on a per head, per night basis. They need people sleeping there to get funding. If they take away their illicit items, they won't stay there. Ergo, they don't get funding. It's simplistic, but it's accurate. The citizens of Wetaskiwin will see nothing but increased costs from this structure, and because it's a nonprofit organization that Hope Mission is, there won't even be a dime of property tax from that location to offset the outrageous ancillary expenses. And now, watching budget deliberations, I see council approve $40,000 to hire 24/7 private security for 1 month and evaluate after that. What do you need to evaluate? You already know it doesn't work. You knew it didn't make a difference when it was brought up on the May 2nd, 2022 council meeting. Actually, Councillor Elliott was the one to point that out. You direct administration to have meetings with the Southside businesses, but you don't even listen when Paul tells you that they aren't even in support of the private security. It seems that under this administration, we are destined to repeat the pain of the past over and over, and we, the taxpayers, get to pay for the insanity. The disrespect this mayor and council show the taxpayers of this city is unforgivable.
Thank you. Was there anybody else for open mic? Okay. Looking for an approval of the agenda for the regular council meeting. Councillor Nielsen, any additions or deletions? Anything from administration? No? Okay. We're ready for the question. Those in favor? Carried unanimously. Item 4.1, regular council meeting minutes for October 10th, 2023. Councillor Nielsen.
I move the council adopts the regular council meeting minutes from October 10th, 2023 as presented.
Moved by Councillor Nielsen. Any errors or omissions? Ready for the question. Those in favor? Carried unanimously. Item 6, consent agenda, council action task summary from October 3rd, 2023. Councillor Blatz.
I move that City Council accepts the Council Action Task Summary Report to October 2nd, 2023 as information.
Moved by Councillor Blatz. Ready for the question. Those in favor? Carried unanimously. Did our public hearing. Item 9, Committee of the Whole, staff reports for information.
Good morning, Council. Today we have 2 representatives from the Wetaskiwin Public Library here to present their 2024 budget request. Administration has provided a copy of the presentation as well as a copy of their detailed budget via email. And with that, I'd like to call both Andrea and Sandra up to the microphone.
Good morning.
Not for tall people. Good morning. My name is Andrea Sandel. I'm chair of the Wetaskiwin Public Library Board. This is Sandra Kim. She is the treasurer of the Wetaskiwin Public Library Board. And we are here today to present our budget ask for next year. So we can go through the PowerPoint to start. Don't know how this, okay, sorry. Okay, so yeah, if we can go to the next slide, please. Excuse me. So here we're just touching on the library's mission and vision, essentially. Just nothing has changed here, but just kind of a reminder of what the library is here for, what we're trying to bring to the city. If we can go to the next one, please. Here we are touching on some of the other community agencies we work with. The library does try hard to be an active part of the community and work together with other agencies within the community. Next slide. So here we have some statistics. Unfortunately, the font is incredibly tiny at the bottom, but just for comparison purposes, this is from January 1st to June 30th of each of the years represented on here, so it's not a full year's representation, but, sorry, I just lost the PowerPoint there. Okay, there we go.
Sorry, I was just sharing the screen, so.
All good. So as you can see, our numbers have continued to go up consistently. Unfortunately, I don't have any pre-COVID statistics, but it's my understanding from the library staff, we are quite close to where we were pre-COVID, if not higher at this point in time. Go to the next slide, please. So just some thoughts on, again, what a library should be in today's day and age. It's intended to be a space for everyone, accessible to everyone. Not just providing books, there's programming, computer usage, staff are skilled in answering all kinds of questions. It's one of the few places that, you know, kids of all ages can go and hang out. It doesn't cost you money to hang out there, which spaces like that in today's day and age are much fewer and further between. And be safe, yes, another one as well. The library staff work incredibly hard to make it a safe space for everyone as well. So we can go to the next slide, please. So this just kind of gives some idea of what the staff are doing in terms of answering questions. They also sometimes have to deal with patron incidents and as well program attendance, which as you can see, again, much like the other statistics provided, the numbers are going up and up and up. Okay, next slide. So goals for 2024. Right now, library space is very small. We don't intend to move in 2024 by any stretch, but just something to keep in mind. As I know, the library's lease is up at the end of this year, so perhaps not locking into a long-term lease so that larger spaces can be explored. Last needs assessment was done in 2013, so basically a full decade ago, and at that time it was already noted that the library space was too small. Needless to say, it's not gotten any better over the last 10 years, so. But as we can expand our space, we can continue to provide additional programming and services for the community. Okay, next slide. Just something to consider, much like everything else, the cost of books is also going up, which probably not surprising to anyone because everything is going up, but just something to bear in mind. Next slide. So again, just touching on the fact that our space is too small, has been too small for the past 10 years, and it does make it really difficult to provide programming, maintain collection, especially in terms of programming space. There's really not a lot of room there, and staff end up having to do things like put pool noodles on the table in the boardroom for when they have rhyme and sign in there, simply because there's nowhere else in the library to have it. So Just something to consider again in regards to expansion. The space really is far too small for the current needs of the community. Okay, next slide, please. And again, too, when they're developing the collection of books, because our space is so limited, basically anything new that comes in, something has to go out. There simply is not room to house the collection as to the size that it should be for our community. Sorry, excuse me. We had YRL actually present to the library board earlier this year, and it was noted that Wetaskiwin does do a lot of like interlibrary loans within the YRL system, more than anybody else does, which is largely due to the fact that our collection area is really small. There's only so much we have space to hold. Okay, next slide. So again, we need more room, we need more shelves. We would love to have, you know, other things going on in the space, such as places for local artists to exhibit their art, you know, have it be a real cultural type of place as well, not just come in, get your book, leave type of thing, you know. Just more room to do other things like that as well. Next slide, please. Oh, I don't know why we have the same one twice. My apologies. Next slide. So again, we've got some statistics here in regards to funding, expenses, revenues. As we can see, again, the cost of everything is going up. COVID really hurt the library in terms of fundraising, simply because there was basically very little to no fundraising that could be done. Any of the traditional avenues that the library would have looked at, or even other new ones, just for the most part were not possible. We're hoping now that seems to be, you know, finally we're done with that, that the library can move forward and go back to fundraising. However, it's going to take a while to get that going again, probably at least another 2 years or so to get back to where we were previously. We can have the next slide, please. Just a little bit of history on the library on this one here. City Council back in 1928 was progressive enough to actually create the library, and that's where we started, and over, or almost 100 years later, we are still here today, expanding and, or hoping to expand and continuing to serve the needs of the community. Okay, next slide. Excuse me. Just to talk a little bit about the staff as well. We have an excellent team at the library. All very hardworking, and especially with some of the transitions we had to make in regards to staff earlier this year. Excuse me. This team has been fantastic, and we certainly could not have done it without them. Okay, next slide. And just a reminder of that investment in the library is really an investment in the community, because it is an area that everyone can access. The library staff do work really hard to make it a safe, inclusive, you know, learning space for everyone in the community. I think that is our last slide there. So I had also sent out a PDF in regards to budgets, so hopefully you've got that there as well. Hopefully. Oh, there we go, perfect. I don't know if you can maybe blow it up a little bit more as well. Yeah, it is a little bit. There we go. Okay, much better. So for our proposed 2024 budget ask, we are asking for an additional $16,000 over last year. You may wonder why we provided the numbers we have. We chose not to provide 2020 and 2021 simply because those were COVID years. The library was barely open at all in 2020, and in 2021, it was this open, close type of thing. So unfortunately, those numbers are not really reflective of how the library is operating presently, because at this point in time, you know, the expectations of the community is that we are back to pre-COVID levels, hence why I've included the 2019 numbers. There isn't a precise breakdown for all of the accounting categories simply because I was just working off of an audited statement, but it does give some reference as to how the library's numbers were looking prior to COVID. So reasoning for the additional ask, there's a couple of new lines in there towards the bottom. One of which is we have a line for HR services. As per the terms of the MOU, the board is to handle HR. However, we are not HR professionals, and this was kind of discovered to be an area that was a bit of a gap in the restructuring the library did earlier this year, so we would like to have some funding set aside for that in case if those services should need it to be retained in the future. Another one of the lines is the organizational review. This is a service that Yellowhead can recommend someone to provide, and what that will do is this, it's like an external contractor who will come in. They will review the operation of the library as a whole, everything from, you know, the running of the library, the board, to the day-to-day jobs of the staff there, just how things are flowing, this type of thing. A price I had got on that before was approximately $7,500, hence that's what I have slotted in there for that. And then the remainder of the ask is we've restructured, and we will now be hiring a director instead of having a separate library manager and a librarian. In my searching for what a appropriate salary to offer the director would be, I discovered the other staff at the library are a bit underpaid compared to other surrounding municipalities. So that kind of combined with cost of living, I'd like to just bring them up to where they should be so they hopefully stay here, because they're all excellent staff and the board would really like to retain them. And I don't know if you had anything you wanted to add as well.
Well, I mean, everything that, of course, has been covered was just every municipality, it doesn't matter what sector it is, have all been experiencing the increases of inflation, utility costs, and that's all been passed down. So to keep the ask, you know, at over only 16,000 more over last year, considering we have some additional issues that have come to light for the library, we're hoping that this council will find to be more than reasonable.
Yeah, we've done our best to look at the other budget categories and kind of cut where we can to move funds around, but fundamentally we do need to ask for a bit of money, so we've tried to keep it as low as we can. And yeah, with that, if anybody has any questions, I would be happy to answer them.
I move that City Council accepts the report titled 2024 Budget Process Outside Agency Presentation to Council and dated October 23rd, 2023 as information.
Moved by Councillor Billingsley. Councillor Billingsley.
Not necessarily through the chair, really not a question, but more of a comment. Andrea and Sandra, thank you very much for coming today. I also would like to publicly thank both you and Kathy for your hard work. For the public that doesn't know, there are some big changes that has happened at the library. And as I sit on that board, I see how much time that the entire board, but specifically you and Kathy have put in, and I really want to thank you very much for the time put in.
Thank you.
Councillor Bronco.
Thank you, Chair, through the Library Board. A couple question one here. Looking at this year, and I'm sure the public will look at it, 2024 hourly part-time went from the year before 6,500 to 99,000.
There is some issue in the reporting from the city. We don't have that much full-time. We actually have more part-time. Unfortunately, those are the most accurate numbers I have right now. But if you look at kind of the salary overall, it sort of gives you a better idea, because unfortunately, I've not been able to have the numbers straightened out. But we only have 3 hourly full-time staff. We have far more part-time staff, so.
So I understand, but I look at this and the public looks at this, because they're looking at
Yeah.
Helen Armdale.
Yeah.
And I really have a lot of issues that presenting things to council to approve it when we don't have the proper information. You said you don't have it, it's not ready, so
We're not approving anything this morning.
I understood. I'm not saying, but you're not presenting to council
Yes.
the proper information that we can make a decision.
If I may, Councillor Bronco, when we take a look at our last full year of operation, being the 2019, where we were operating at full-time staff, we've actually decreased the amount of wages that we're paying to our staff by almost $80,000. So I understand wanting to be responsible to the taxpayers, which is what this library board has really strived to do. We still operate, like Andrea had said, probably higher levels than we did pre-pandemic back in 2019, but we're keeping our wages still lower than 2019. So we've managed that very well, I think.
Okay, and my other question, if I may, you keep saying expansion. I think council and the public would like to know statistics. How many people do 2 years our lease ends? How many people go through our doors?
Over 100,000.
That was some of the information provided in the PowerPoint as to people in for programming, items checked out, that type of thing. Those statistics were.
Okay, was that this year? What was the year before and the year before?
Yeah, there's 3 years in there.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Nielsen.
Thank you. I guess I have some of the same questions Councilor Bronco had with regard to the salaries, and you've attempted to answer that. But moving down on the expense sheet, I see a car allowance going from 90 to 500. I see training going from 200 to 4,000. I see conference travel going from 1,000 to 2,000. You've already spoken about the board development. So I'm seeing some numbers going up fairly largely.
Those are actuals for the previous years as opposed to budgeted amounts. Some things were not available, such as a lot of conferences and things had not started back up post-COVID. If you look at the 2019 number, you'll see there was $6,000 spent on conferences and travel. So we're trying to factor in some money so that library staff can start to attend the conferences and things like that. Just many things in 2022 and 2023 have not been up and running yet, hence why I provided the 2019 numbers as well, just to kind of give an idea of what was going on pre-COVID.
Could you speak to the car allowance, please?
Yeah, and chances are the full 500 may not be spent in the car allowance, but again now, so the car allowance is specifically in regards to staff who have to go around to other places. Some of it is to do with homebound, some of it is to do with going around to the schools, since a lot of the schools don't have full libraries anymore, this type of thing. Again, the vast majority of that was shut down during COVID, and it's just kind of starting to get back up and running again. We anticipate in 2024 staff will need to be resuming going around to other areas of the city.
Thank you.
Councillor Blatz.
No, thank you. Through the chair to the library board, I want to echo a lot of Councillor Billingsley's comments. Being on the library board with you ladies as well as the rest of the library board has been a great experience, because you guys are so dedicated to what you do and what you're doing for the community, and I just really wanted to commend you guys on all the hard work that you guys have done, and I'm very lucky that I got to be a part of it. Thank you.
Councillor Bronco.
Thank you, Chair, to the library. A question to ask you. You had mentioned here that Wetaskiwin Library holds a lot of books for the YRL area and everything. You know, a lot of books transfer or move.
Yeah, we don't actually hold them. They're coming from other libraries into us for our patrons to take out.
So, and you said there was a lot of it, Wetaskiwin. I'm wondering, you said we need a bigger library. If our Wetaskiwin is holding its pace, why would we need a bigger library for future consideration? And are we storing books for other libraries that they don't have room?
No, we are not.
Okay, thank you.
Anything further? Does funding for Musqueam still go to another library?
Yes, I believe it goes to Panoka.
Have we made the application or pursued that funding to come to our library? I've asked a number of times for a number of years that we lobby the provincial government or whoever it is that we need to have that funding directed to our library. Do you know if that's happened or if it's being talked about?
It's not been mentioned in my time on the board, which is not to say, you know, maybe it was being worked on behind the scenes. I would say probably not this year, simply due to the other transitions in staff and such that the library has made, but I can certainly bring that forth to note to the board for next year to look at that again.
Okay.
May I ask a clarifying question?
Yep.
To that? While we were going through the budget, we did notice that the provincial grant given through MSI for libraries was decreased by about $30,000. So I guess as an exploratory question on behalf of the board to this council would be to find out if that $30,000 MSI grant is maybe the portion that you're referring to.
It's not. We were never allocated that funding for Musqueam's population. It always went to another library. And so for the last few years, I'd asked either the librarian or the board or whoever if we could pursue that funding to make sure that that money started coming back into our community, as opposed to whichever library board it was going to. Councilor Bronco.
Thank you. Through the chair again to question asked. Have you, you're asking for 16,000. Is this also increased from the county or just Wetaskiwin? Did you approach the county to do a little bit more increase, or do we, as a city, come up with the full $16,000?
We currently don't have any means to present to the county. We are looking into that. Actually, the county library board was apparently to be coming in to tour the library here, and we're hoping to potentially connect with them if and when that happens, but as it stands right now, the county doesn't offer us the opportunity to present to them.
So, a question to staff, or so the county just gives us a lump sum for operation of the library board?
Through the mayor to Councilor Branco, no. The county, my understanding, funds the library board directly, and we don't get involved at all.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through to the ladies, thank you very much for your presentation. I have a couple of things I'd just like to say. It's Parkland County that gets the funding for Musqueam. I did write a letter to the minister a number of years ago regarding changing the funding. It actually has to go through a ministerial order to get the funding changed to come to Wetaskiwin. And I think we should pursue it. And I think it would be easy to start with a letter. We could at least get the ball rolling on that. As far as size of the library, our library is half the size that it was supposed to be, and that was determined, I want to say, 15 years ago. We should be, I think we're about 8,000 square feet and should be somewhere around 18,000 square feet. And so when new books come in, other books have to be taken off the shelves, which decreases the number of books we have available to the public. So our library is too small. One comment I want to make related to your first set of slides, though. Your first set of slides said the contribution from the city, and then it had revenues going up and expenses going up, and it had the city contributing under $100,000, and according to your budget, in 2019, it was 501,000, and so I think that chart maybe should be corrected so it doesn't make the city look like they weren't contributing to the library. I support the library and what they're doing. The staff do go above and beyond what they're paid for. They may be part-time, but a lot of them work almost full-time. So I would support what the ladies are asking for, and I support the library and all that they do. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Elliott. Anything further? Yep, go ahead, Councillor Nielsen.
Thank you, through the chair to the ladies. Do you keep track of, I'm going to use the word users, patrons, pardon me, by area of residence? Like, would you know what your numbers are regarding Maskwacis, service to Maskwacis residents?
We could tell how many people from that area have library cards. I don't know that it's actually tracked as to say how often they're coming in, taking materials out, that type of thing, because there are, I believe, some restrictions on what we're allowed to track in regards to that.
Okay. The only reason I ask the question is I think in relation to petitioning the ministerial panel or whomever regarding the funding for Maskwacis, having some statistics to support getting those dollars would be beneficial, and how you would collect that, I don't know, and I don't know what your limitations are, but it was just a thought that I had. Thank you.
Councillor Bronco.
Through the chair, again, through the library board. You rent out books. What is the bad debt, or how do you collect bad debt that people don't pay their books? Or is there an outstanding amount of bad debt?
This is going to go back all the way to 2019, where I believe we did have outstanding fines that were in the 5-digit range. They were quite substantial. And at that time, we did, as a board, make a motion to go through a collection agency to try to recover some of those funds. Unfortunately, the timing of it happened and everything fell apart with COVID, because this was just before the start of the pandemic. And since then, I can say that we have not had a thorough evaluation as to how to recover any outstanding debts, mostly due to the fact that a lot of the patrons have moved out of province.
Councillor Billingsley.
Through the chair, I'd like to speak to that a little bit. There was a policy put in place last year of mitigating the issues with customers keeping books so that bad debt, as you call it, or the ability to collect the fines will be reduced. So it's important to know that there has been some process in place, put in place.
Anything further? We're ready for the question. Those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item 10.1, 10, staff reports for decision. 10.1, Fortis franchise agreement, electricity franchise fee 2024.
Hello, Mayor and Council. This is Candace. I will be presenting on behalf of Toulouse, our Chief Financial Officer. Are you able to hear me all right?
We are, yep.
Perfect. All right, so I have the franchise Fortis agreement in front of you. So each year, City Council has an opportunity to evaluate the franchise agreement rate with Fortis. This report provides an analysis of the impact a change on the in the electricity utility franchise fee will have in order to inform Council as they review the rates. So pursuant to the city's franchise agreements, the city has the ability to change the franchise fee percentage in 2024. The request to change the percentage must be received by Fortis in writing prior to November 1st, 2023. Unlike a tax increase, a franchise fee increase is spread over a larger base. Schools, provincial buildings, federal buildings, hospitals, and churches are exempt from taxation. However, all these properties have to pay for electricity, thereby spreading the franchise fee increase over more properties. The current electrical franchise fee with Fortis is 17%. which is under the 20% maximum allowed by Alberta Utilities Commission. So based on the current fees, the estimated revenue from electrical franchise fees in 2024 is $1,770,895. In this next paragraph in the RFD, there has been a slight modification. So administration has included a budgeted amount of $1,770,895 rather than the $1,738,530 in the draft 2024 budget. In this next section, this just shows the proposed increase if council were to consider a rate increase. So currently at 17%, estimated revenues again are that $1,770,895. If council were to increase the rate to 18%, the estimated revenue would be $1,875,065. This would be an increase of $251,827. And I do just want to pause here and state that this is inclusive of the Fortis increase that we saw earlier above. So this is from the 2023 budget, not where we're at with the current 2024 budget deliberations. Moving forward, increase of 19% would be an estimated revenue of $1,979,235, an increase of $355,998. An increase to 20% would be an estimated revenue of $2,893,406, and that would be an increase from the 2023 budget of $460,168. I will just add, it's not in the RFD, but Fortis does provide a calculation spreadsheet. So the impact per 640 kilowatt hours over 30 days, so 1 month, at 18%, moving from that 17% would be a $1.87 for the franchise fee increase per that 30 days, and then that would total a $6.56 increase inclusive of the Fortis proposed change. If we were to look at going to 19%, that would be a $2.67 increase for the franchise fee, and then that would total $7.36 increase inclusive of the Fortis proposed changes. And at that 20% maximum cap, it would be a $3.46 change for the franchise fee, totaling an $8.16 increase inclusive of the Fortis proposed changes. So that concludes the presentation. I'll take any questions if council has them.
I move that City Council directs administration to initiate the process to change the Fortis electrical utility franchise agreement to a rate to 18% for 2024.
Moved by Councillor Billingsley. Any discussion? Go ahead.
Thank you. As probably most people around the table know, I'm not the biggest proponent of tax, which essentially this becomes because it does go into our revenue. But if anybody has taken a look at the franchise fee riders that are in this document, you'll notice that cities that are around our size have a very similar type percentage. We're not an outlier. So I think that that is a reasonable amount. Either we add it here, which Candace had said, then we are able to collect from organizations that we can't collect taxes from. I think that that is very important to make note of, whether it's government buildings or whatever, they will be paying, we will be collecting some form of tax. So in my opinion, this is probably the best way, because if we don't do this, either we're going to have to cut spending or we're going to have to raise our taxes by this difference amount, so which is about another %, a little over 1%. So thank you.
1.383%.
Yeah.
Councillor Nielsen.
I will reluctantly support this motion only because it taxes community groups and organizations that would otherwise be not paying any taxes in our community. So they would be contributing in that context. So I will support your motion.
Councillor Bronco.
Thank you, Tyler. I won't be supporting this. It's either we cut back our spending or the taxpayer keeps cut their spending because they're going to get an increase in the bill. So they're going to have to go back to their budget operations and what do we cut to pay our utilities? And I'm happy with leaving it at 17. Somebody has to cut back. Either we do it or the taxpayer does it, and the taxpayer doesn't have an abundance of money coming in. But I just let you know how I feel on that.
Councillor Blatz.
Thank you. I agree with Councillor Billingsley and Councillor Nielsen's sentiments. I was here for all 3 days of budget deliberations, and we're faced with a lot of expenses that are mandatory at this point. And so I think that this is a good way to try to offset the tax raise. Thank you.
Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with Councillor Blatz, Councillor Billingsley. This increase will be shared amongst more people. If we don't have an increase, it will only be shared by those paying taxes. So all of those who aren't being taxed are going to be contributing as well to this. So I'm in favor. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further? I'm not in favor of the increase. I agree with Councillor Bronco that efficiencies or other cuts can be found as opposed to increasing something else to offset that. And I do appreciate why our franchise fee is at 70% with that in mind, saying that the federal and provincial buildings that don't pay taxes do contribute back through their electrical bill. I'm not in favor of that increase. We'd worked hard over the last couple of years to decrease that, and it feels like a little bit of a roller coaster up and down to find those dollars. So for that, I will not be supporting. Anything further? Ready for the question? Those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Item 10.2, outdoor spray park project. Welcome.
All right, good morning, Mayor Gandam and members of council. I'm here today with Katrina and Chelsea from the Wetaskiwin Spray Park Committee, who will be available at the end of the presentation to answer any questions that you may have for the committee. So on August 28th, council heard from the committee regarding the future construction of an outdoor spray park in Wetaskiwin, and then council directed administration to work with the committee to bring back further information for consideration and approval. So as a recap, there are two main types of spray parks, flow-through and recirculating. With a flow-through system, potable water is used directly from the municipal water line and then returned to the wastewater system. With a recirculating system, treated water is used continuously. The advantages and disadvantages of both systems are outlined in the table in the RFD. If a recirculating system is chosen, shower facilities must be available as per AHS pool standards. So in order to meet this requirement, the showers at Manluck Centre could potentially be utilized or outdoor showers installed. The Wetaskiwin Spray Park Committee is currently in the early stages of planning, and the type of spray park chosen will be decided based on fundraising efforts, donations, grant applications, and council direction. So the 4 locations the committee has examined for spray park are west of the Manluck Centre, north of the Toddler Park, Kinsman Park, and Battle Lake Park. The advantages, disadvantages, and assessed land value are outlined in the table. Please note that the Spray Park Committee is looking for use of city land to construct the spray park, which would then become a city asset. So the land would remain the city's. The committee's preference at this point would be for the spray park to be located on the rec grounds next to Manluck. So the construction costs that the committee has received from quotes from different providers range from $526,000 plus contingency for a flow-through system and $726 plus contingency for a recirculating system. Construction costs will be the responsibility of the spray park committee. Once the spray park is completed, it would then become a city asset, and ongoing operating and capital costs would be the responsibility of the city. So operating costs for a flow-through system are approximately $70,000 to $75,000 per year and include water usage of $45,000, staff time of $8,440, and capital costs of $20,000 per year. Please note, due to a water calculation error, the operating costs associated with the recirculating system are lower than what's written in the RFD. Annual costs for a recirculating system are approximately $45,000 to $50,000 per year, and that includes water usage of $5,000, staff time of $12,940, and capital costs of $26,700 per year. So the committee is seeking council's support for this project through in-kind donations for the project, including use of the Memorial Fund for their fundraising efforts. This saves them the time of having to establish a not-for-profit. Site preparation work, which is valued at approximately $2,000, and permit fees for the project to be paid from the contingency reserve. So that includes my presentation. The motions are there before you, and I would be happy to take any questions on behalf of administration, and Katrina and Chelsea would be happy to take any on behalf of the committee.
Councillor Nielsen.
I move the City Council approves the use of city-owned land located on Recreation Grounds Plan 0220662 Block 1 for the future construction of an outdoor spray park to be funded by the Wetaskiwin Spray Park Committee.
Moved by Councillor Nielsen. Just to confirm for people watching at home, what is Plan 0220662 Block 1?
So that land is located directly west of the Manluck Center, so close to where the old Abusafi Center was.
Perfect, thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Nielsen.
Thank you. Through the chair. Could you repeat the information you provided regarding shower facilities, please?
Yeah, through the chair to Councillor Nielsen. So if a recirculating spray park is chosen, then there needs to be shower facilities available to patrons that are utilizing the spray park. So for the time being, Manluck showers could be utilized, or an outdoor shower could be installed for patrons to use before using the spray park and after.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Bronco.
Thank you, Tyler. Great part. So these estimates you got, this is just more of a, it's not actually a design build yet. So these costs you have are just.
Through the chair to Councillor Bronco. So the costs were derived by information that the committee has received, like quotes, and then water usage that the vendor has said. So how much cubic meters a flow-through uses, how many cubic meters a recirc system uses, and then estimating that as well as the staff time and replacement costs over 30 years.
So would that include the construction of the park itself? That's separate for underground drainage systems, all that good stuff, playground facilities.
Through the chair to Councillor Bronco. So the construction cost is solely for the spray park itself. Yes.
Another question, I like the idea, I think we plumbed it, could be corrected if I'm wrong, by the Manluck Center. Would this facility be enclosed, so after hours? Because if we put temporary shot, it's going to be very hard to regulate people using the spray park to go use the Manluck Center for washrooms and showers if they don't pay for it. You know, is somebody going to monitor or have a ribbon who goes in and who doesn't? And if we put it outside, is this facility going to be closed in after so many hours? Because if we leave a facility like this open, how do we handle that?
Yeah, through the chair to Councillor Bronco. So we could explore options to fence the area if chosen, and then staff could lock it up at the end of the night. Of course, all the water would be turned off after the spray park is not on, but to prevent vandalism and stuff, we could.
But the fencing would be based on if we have an outdoor shower. If we don't have it, understood, shut the power, or shut the water off.
Right.
And then you don't have to, but if
Yep.
you had a facility for showers and bathrooms, then you're gonna, because you don't want it too long, you know, we're gonna have kids and accidents do happen, you don't want them to run through our facilities to go through the bathroom. Thank you.
Councillor Billingsley.
Thank you. Through the chair. Who said volunteerism is dead? Thank you very much for all the hard work. It's not easy to raise this kind of money, so hats off to all of you. My question, though, is to administration as far as this location. Will this affect the potential expansion of the Manluck for a field house or any other possible expansion?
Through the chair to Councillor Billingsley, it should not. In the master plan that was done in 2013, the field house was earmarked to be on the other side of Manluck, not the west side.
Wonderful. And for clarification on the operating costs, you said that there was an error. So the annual operating costs associated with recirculating, that's 45, not 95, is that correct?
Through the chair, yes. At the time I was writing the report, I was having a hard time figuring out the water costs and
Yep.
just what a recirc would use, but we since.
So we would be, just for clarification, would be $25,000 per year cheaper to recycle than to flow the water. Is that correct?
Through the chair, yes, that is correct.
Thank you very much.
Go ahead.
It's cheaper, except you have to have showers. So there's the additional cost
Of the water.
of the actual facility for showers, setting up showers.
Or using Manluck showers.
I'm sorry?
Or using Manluck showers.
Or using Manlock, yeah.
Go ahead.
Through the chair to Wetaskiwin Spray Park Committee. As a committee, have you decided at this point in time what your design preference is in terms of flow-through or recirc? Or is it depending upon the kind of dollars that you're able to raise?
Yeah, I think at this time, we don't know kind of funds raised and stuff, so we are kind of looking for direction from council on that too, because it will be a city asset after, and that cost will be on the city, so we would like a little bit of direction from you on that as well. Did you have
Sure, the replacement cost of the recirculating line would be higher, but I think looking at the goals set forth by the city, reusing the water would be the preference. So it really is going to come down to fundraising and what we can afford, I think, is going to be the primary factor there.
And does a recirculating system change water temperature at all?
It does. It's much warmer.
Thank you.
Councillor Bronco.
Thank you, Tyler. Spray Park.
Mike. Mike.
Sorry. You guys are doing a fundraising. Now, is the project commencing once you reach a certain amount of fundraising, or if it doesn't, you just keep going till you get to that point, or let's say you get to $750,000 you want to start? Because one of my concerns, I know overrun projects like this, and a couple years away, nobody knows exactly the cost until shovels hit the ground. Because if you're short, you're obviously going to come to us because it's on our property and we have an asset that's not operational. So you must have a plan in place that once we hit a certain amount of fundraising, then shovels hit the ground.
Sure, we do have a projection that we'd like to achieve. We are going to have 3 options, so kind of like a good, better, best. And then depending on where we're at with grants, fundraising, sponsorships, we'll be able to kind of project where we can go with that. We also have a secondary goal of creating a park and some of those outlying features. We've talked about benches and landscaping, different issues around the area. So I think as far as what our projections are, I mean, we do have an ultimate goal that is much higher than this amount that we would like to hit to be able to kind of complete the overall picture of the area. but we would like to have some options in place so that we can scale back if needed and stay on budget, so we don't need to come back to the city for those monies.
Thank you.
Anything further?
Mr. Mayor,
Yep, go ahead.
I don't know how I get recognized. I got my hand up and I'm waving.
Just
and-
need to speak up, that's all.
Okay. I would like to thank the ladies, first of all, for what they're doing. This has been something the community's looked at for a long time, as well as it was in the Recreation Master Plan as well, that people wanted one. So I'm supporting these ladies, and I like the idea of the recirculating. The Lions have said that they are interested as well in a spray park, so I really hope that you two can work together on that. I have a feeling that I would like to see an enclosed spray park, and I know that'd be very expensive or more expensive, but I think it'd be nice to have something 12 months a year that people could enjoy, as opposed to only on the nice days. A day like today, I don't know what it's like in Wetaskiwin, but I understand it's very snowy in that. So I would just like to see something enclosed so people can enjoy it in a much longer, for a much longer period. And then that I think would also allow people to go in and out of the Manluck Center to shower and use washrooms and to change. So, but thank you, ladies, and I wish you well with this. And I hope that the community gets behind you. Thank you very much.
Go ahead, Councillor Blatz.
Thank you. I just wanted to echo some of the comments that Councillor Elliott made about the recirculating system. I agree with that also because of when we have water bans during the summer, if it gets to being a heat wave, it would be, rather than having to shut off the water because we have a water ban, it's a good way that we can make sure that it's running when there's a heat wave. So it is a little bit more costly, but at the same time, I think it would be utilized a lot more throughout the summer in the event that there is a ban on water usage. So I just wanted to put my 2 cents about the recirculating system, and also thank you guys so much for all your hard work. Thank you.
Good. We're ready for the question. Those in favor? Carried unanimously.
Carry on.
Yep.
I move the City Council approves the Wetaskiwin Spray Park Committee have access to the Memorial Fund for their fundraising efforts for the construction of this project.
Moved by Councillor Nielsen. And just confirming that this is to use the account, not what's in the fund currently. Because I'll guarantee you somebody will ask me how much money is in that account that you just gave them.
Yeah, to the chair, I apologize. I should have made that more clear. It's just
No
use the
worries.
fund itself, not the cash in it.
Any discussion? Go ahead.
For clarification, when this was first set up, was there, previously, was there tax exemptions or tax exemptions for donations through the Memorial Fund?
I don't think it's just through the Memorial Fund. I think, and I'm going to use Councillor Elliott's memory, is that if there are donations made to the city, that we can issue tax receipts.
That is correct.
So in the event that they're using, if this motion passes, they're using Memorial Fund, so then any fundraising with the money going in there would be given a tax receipt?
Tax receipt.
Great, thank you.
Councillor Elliott.
No, I'm done. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Bronco.
Thank you, Tyler. Question to administration or to us. Do we have a limit on, I'm not asking how much is in there, just is there a limit that the fund can give out, or whatever fund we have in there? Because I'm sure once we donate some money to the spray park, other organizations might want.
There's nothing here saying that we're donating anything to the spray park. They're just using the account so that when they start fundraising, they have a place to put their money.
Thank you. And also get a tax receipt.
Correct.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, the Councillor Blatz, Councillor Aberley, and myself were sitting on the Memorial Fund Society, and Councillor Blatz and I signed off last week so that money in the Memorial Fund Society will be taken out and come back to the city, and the account balance will be zero when these ladies take over.
Councillor Blatz.
Just speaking in response to Councillor Elliott, we actually both need to go to the bank and drop off that paper that we signed. And so it hasn't happened yet. So just making that clear.
Anything further? We're ready for the question. Those in favor? Carried unanimously.
I move the City Council approve supporting the project by funding city permit fees from the contingency reserve.
Moved by Councillor Nielsen. Any discussion? We're ready for the question. Those in favor? Carried unanimously.
I move the City Council support the project by providing staff time and equipment to complete the site preparation work.
Moved by Councillor Nielsen. Go ahead.
Through the Chair to Administration, do we have any sense at this point in time what the actual physical request is in terms of site preparation and the associated costs?
Through the chair to Councillor Nielsen, so I spoke with the team here about just basics, dirt work, what it would cost to get that site ready, and that is estimated to be $2,000, but yeah, we would need to consult further with the vendor just to confirm exactly what's needed.
Thank you.
Councillor Bronco.
Thank you, Tyler. I'm all good, but to use city equipment and manpower, I think is a no-no, because when you have city equipment, how far does it go, where do we go, and all that. And the clause there doesn't speculate the dirt work, the trenching, or anything like that. And if we do that to this, or I have no problem giving you, I'm sorry, I can't say giving you because it's not my money, it's council's money. I think it's better to ask for some funding and let you guys look at it, because you're looking at it. As soon as we get involved, I think there's more of a conflict, because then you're going to have other organizations say, okay, we want to start something, we want your free equipment or your free labor or expertise. So I have no problem supporting or the city voting for the city to give you money, but I'd rather see you guys from digging or putting a shovel in the ground to the end. That's your project. I don't want to see the city. We support you, but having equipment to do some of the city work, like we could have baseball teams who want to do something.
I'm happy to have the city provide the in-kind services for the dirt work for the park. We're using city land. You guys are going to fundraise to have this equipment put there, placed there, built, and then we're taking on those assets when it's done. So I believe that part of our responsibility is to provide as much resources as we can to make sure that that project goes well. So I'll absolutely support that. Councillor Nielsen.
Through the Chair to Administration. So keeping in mind Councillor Bronco's comments, and again, I don't know the magnitude of site preparation and what that consists of, but by the city getting involved in that preparation work, do we assume any liability for problems that come up in the future, i.e. unstable ground, whatever? I'm just picking straws here now, but I guess Councillor Bronco's comments made me think of the liability issue and whether our investment should rather be money rather than personnel and machinery from a liability perspective.
Through the Mayor, Councillor Nielsen, I would think that if we were to do the site work, it would be under the direction of their contractor, and then the contractor would need to sign off on that before proceeding, so that the contractor would take the liability and not the city would ask one. That's my answer as it stands right now. If that changes over the next 15 minutes or so, I'll let council know.
Councillor Billings.
Thanks. We'll delay this vote then.
Thank you to administration. I too understand where Councillor Branco is coming from on this. Having said that, my question is to administration. Would staff and the city's assets be able to conduct all this work, or would we have to contract out that work and pay for that bill?
Through the chair to Councillor Billingsley, so when I spoke with the operations staff manager who oversees that area, he said that we could do the work, and we had the equipment and the staff expertise to do so.
So, could or would? Because, in other words, because if it's a could and we end up not, then that's going to be a budget issue, that we have not had any budget discussions upon that. If it's internal.
The motion reads as an in-kind service, so we're providing the service. If that changes, it would have to come back to council to spend that money if there was going to be money going outside of that, and then, which in case would go to the organizing committee or the fundraising committee, that it would be an additional cost for them. So as it stands, if our administration says that they can do the dirt work for that project, then it's an in-kind service. We're not putting any money out.
That's perfect. Thank you.
Councilor Bronco.
Thank you, Tyler. I agree with what you're saying, but, and you're allowed $2,000 for site prep? Something in here about $2,000?
Through the chair, yeah, that was preliminary, but of course, until we confirm whether it's going to be a flow-through or recirc, it could change.
If I may understand, the city has the equipment, $2,000 seems like just stripping up the topsoil. So if we're going to do that, I'd like to get clarification what our site prep is. Do we do excavate? Well, that's going beyond what we're going to do, but it's $2,000. To me, it's cheap for site work, which is just stripping the topsoil and let the contractor. But if we have to go beyond that, so we need clarification what the city's going to do is what I'm trying to say.
Councilor Nielsen.
Thank you. Through the chair, I guess Natasha. When we, and again, coming back to the site preparation work, because you just made a comment that if we're doing a recirc, the site preparation is going to be different. So are we actually trenching for, are we simply removing top surface, or are we actually trenching for water lines and recirc lines and drainage lines and all the rest of it? Or are we just stripping the top portion of the land?
My understanding, the dirt work is just the topsoil issue. All of those other elements will be taken care of by the contractor.
Thank you.
Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, the city has supported other projects related to city infrastructure and city buildings. So this is not something new that's being asked for, and the motion says that we provide staff, time, and equipment to help complete this, or to complete this project. And I think we should support this as much as we can. Fundraising is a challenge to start with, so anything that we can do to help would definitely be an asset to this group that's trying to raise funds. Going back to what Councillor Bronco said, he said, and I feel, that there was infrastructure put in when the Manlock Aquatic Facility was built. And I know Candace said that she checked with people and there is nothing there. Would it be possible to check with the recreation director of the time when the facility was built to see if that infrastructure exists? Because I'm almost positive that it was in our budget, and I think that's what Councillor Bronco was alluding to as well. And unless we were totally misled, I feel that infrastructure was put there and for the field house, which was going to go on the other side. Thank you.
Through the chair to Councillor Elliott. So I did a bit of looking into this, and I reached out to the contractor who built the pool, and to their knowledge, there is nothing in place to support a spray park on the west side of Manlock Centre.
Thank you very much, Natasha. I guess our committee was somewhat misled then. Thank you.
Anything further? We're ready for the question. Those in favor? Carried unanimously.
And finally, I would like to move that City Council directs administration to bring an update on the spray park project by the end of Q1 2024.
Moved by Councillor Nielsen. Any discussion? Councillor Bronco.
Thank you, Tyler. Just a question I don't know if I can ask to move that on regarding the infrastructure. I don't know if I can, or do I make a motion after or information to be?
I'm not sure what you're asking.
I'm asking, we have a part of our swimming pool, the wave runner. Just wondering, is it possible, since if it's not going to be usable in the future, if it can be possible to tie in, engineering would have to look at the drawing, if it's possible to tie in to that system since it's the closest to the wall, to use that. Something engineering or would have to look at, it's for cheaper expense if it can be used to tie into that system.
Through the chair to Councillor Bronco, so I actually did ask the contractor that as well, if any of the board rider components could be utilized for the spray park. And as his words, it would actually be more costly to do that, to try and retrofit it, than use new equipment, just with the distance and how it is engineered. So unfortunately, they did not think that was a good option for us.
Thank you.
Good, thank you. Anything further? We're ready for the question. Those in favor?
Mr. Mayor?
Councillor
I would
Elliott.
just like to, thank you. Just before we vote, I'm going to vote in favor, but I'd just like to thank Natasha for all the work that she's done on this. I mean, there's been a lot of, she's answered a lot of questions that we asked, and she didn't know ahead of time what we were going to ask. So thank you, Natasha, for being so well prepared with your presentation. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Ready for the question? Those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you very much for all the work that you guys are doing for this. I'm really looking forward to seeing what this turns out to be. Thanks, Natasha.
Question?
Go ahead.
If I may ask a question. What are your plans, what are your next steps in terms of starting to move this project forward and marketing and advertising and all that kind of stuff? And how can we help support that process?
Yeah, now that we have access to the Memorial Fund, we're able to start completing our grant applications, which we weren't able to do so prior. And then now we're going to be reaching out for city engagement, community engagement, trying to get the word out, get some feedback on what people are looking for the project, get a little more specific there, and then jump right into fundraising. So that's our next biggest steps.
So through the chair, if I may, to Paul. So Paul, what is the process by which groups like this would actually get involved with our city newspaper wrap in terms of getting it out in as big a way as possible?
Through the mayor to Councillor Nielsen, we have had groups in the past ask to be a part of the city's newspaper wrap. However, that would be an increase in budget that we don't have, so we try to keep that newspaper wrap dedicated to city news. But if council would want to make a motion to provide that as an in-kind to the Spray Park Committee, they could choose to do so.
Sorry, through the chair, any idea in terms of additional costs? Can you ballpark that in any way, Paul?
Through to Councillor Nelson, I don't have that information. I know Candace is on the call as well, and she's the general manager of that area. She might be able to provide some insight.
Through the chair to Councillor Nielsen, I unfortunately don't have the most current rate card from the paper. I can take that as an information request, though.
I'd like to make a motion. I would like to move that council directs administration to work with the Wetaskiwin Spray Water Park Committee in its marketing and promotion endeavors. That may include exposure on the Wetaskiwin newspaper wrap.
Go ahead.
To what level? And what
$1 million.
amount?
You know what?
And who decides of what that level is?
And that's a fair comment. And I guess I left that open-ended because we didn't get a response from anybody in terms of what the initial costs were. And I think also the way I worded it, which may include the wrap. So, A, do I think we should be helping support the marketing of this? I do.
For sure.
And in terms of perhaps using the wrap, and I've indicated that as a potential, but there's no dollar value attached to it. So I know I didn't answer your question.
I'd like to follow up then with the committee, if I may. Do you have a business plan as far as marketing goes? And you talked about your next step. Like, would this be beneficial to you? I'm sure the answer will be yes. when would you start that process of marketing and fundraising and all those other things?
So right away, we're going to start looking at our application process, and then within the next month, next 30 days, we want to be able to start disseminating information out to community.
Okay, so in the next 30 days, okay?
Mr. Mayor, when I listened to Councillor Nielsen's motion, I think if he stopped his motion at the word endeavors, that leaves it open to the city to decide what they would like to do in ways of assisting.
I'm deeply offended he thinks I said too many things.
Never, 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 never.
Can we have the motion brought up, and then if Councillor Elliott is proposing an amendment, we can discuss that?
Do you want me to repeat it?
I don't know if Lisa has it.
Did you capture that at all, Lisa? If I can remember it. I would like to move that the council directs administration to work with the Wetaskiwin Spray Park Committee in its marketing endeavors, period. Does that satisfy you, Mr. Bill?
Yes, thank you.
Councillor Bronco.
Question to that marketing. I would think you would have to ask what kind of marketing. We're not talking just media marketing, paper, or putting up signs, so.
Can we have administration work that out with the committee instead of us
Yes.
micromanaging it?
Sure.
Fantastic. Anything further? Ready for the question. Those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you very much, ladies. Thanks, Natasha.
Was there another one?
Yeah, don't take that home, we might need that.
Oh, that didn't get passed? We passed the motion on getting the report back, didn't we?
On which?
Getting the report back into Q1?
Yes, we did, and then I added my motion.
And then he followed up with a motion. Item 11.1, Council Committee Reports and Attendance. I've got needing a motion. Councilor Blatz.
I move that City Council accepts the council committee reports and attendance as information.
Perfect. Anything you want to highlight from yours?
I attended the Alberta Municipalities Convention with a good amount of council, and I learned a lot over the few days that we were there. Got to connect with a number of municipalities that are facing a lot of the same issues that we are in relation to crime and in relation to a lot of the other things that most municipalities are facing as far as funding decreases and all of that. And so I think it was really good to connect and find out what other municipalities are doing as solutions, and it was a good opportunity.
Councilor Billingsley.
Thank you. Nothing more to add than that's
Councillor
not in the
Elliott?
report.
Nothing to add, Your Worship. I mean, Mr. Mayor.
Perfect. Ready for the question? Those in favor? Carried unanimously. Item 12.1, Amendment to Land Use Bylaw 1804-13 to allow mini storage facility as a discretionary use in the C5 district.
Morning. So Planning and Development received an application to make a text amendment to the land use bylaw, adding mini storage facility to the C5 Shopping Center Commercial District as permitted use. The application was made in connection with the proposed redevelopment of 3721 56th Street, which forms the southern end of Wetaskiwin Shopping Mall for a mini storage facility. Of course, the amendment would affect all C5 parcels. Administration recommends making amendments to the land use bylaw to include mini storage facility as a discretionary use in the C5 shopping center district, and to give provisions for mini storage facilities in commercial districts under the mini storage facility specific use regulations. The mini storage facility use is compatible with the purpose of the shopping center commercial district and is consistent with the range of uses currently allowed. The purpose of the district is for shopping center development, so the scale of the existing development is consistent with the scale of a mini storage facility. The recommended amendment is to add mini storage facility as a discretionary use rather than the permitted use requested by the applicant. This is to be consistent with the existing regulations of mini storage facilities, which in all the other zones where they are allowed, they are only allowed as discretionary uses. Note that all discretionary uses will be reviewed as part of the land use bylaw review that is anticipated for next year. However, at this time, it's preferable to remain consistent. The current specific use regulations for mini storage facility are based on the use only being allowed in industrial districts currently. Allowing the use in a commercial district requires different regulations to ensure that the development does not negatively impact surrounding uses or the character of the area. The recommended amendments include introducing different fencing requirements for facilities in commercial and industrial districts to ensure that any outdoor rental spaces are secure without requiring fencing of the entire lot, which would alter the appearance and character of the commercial district. Likewise, outdoor rental spaces in commercial areas should be set back equal to or greater than the primary building so as not to dominate the streetscape. Lastly, a requirement should be added that mini storage facilities in commercial districts must be of higher exterior architectural standards suitable for commercial area. The existing general regulations for fences, which you can find in attachment 4 of the RFD, regulate allowable fence materials in commercial districts, stating that they shall be chain link, and those in storage compounds facing roadways shall have screening slats installed. Therefore, we recommend removing the specification in the specific use regulations that fencing be chain link to avoid possible conflict between the specific use regulations and the fencing regulations, should the fencing regulations be changed in the future. For the purpose of clarity and consistency, administration further recommends amending the general regulations for fence height and location to clearly include shopping center commercial district under section 7.1.1.3, which is currently titled highway commercial and downtown commercial, as well as a minor amendment to the mini storage facility definition to correct some redundant wording. So to summarize, the recommended amendments read as follow. Amend land use bylaw part 2, section 2.1.130 to read mini storage facility means a secure site containing buildings constructed and used for the rental of bays to persons or businesses for storage of private goods. Amend land use bylaw part 6, section 6.20.3 discretionary uses to add mini storage facility, and section 6.20.11.1 to include reference to part 8, section 830, the mini storage facility specific use regulations. Amend land use bylaw part 7, section 7.1.1.3 to be titled highway commercial, shopping center commercial, and downtown commercial. And amend the land use bylaw part 8, section 830, mini storage facility to read mini storage facilities in industrial zones shall be entirely fenced. Mini storage facilities in commercial zones shall fence any outdoor rental spaces. 2, access gates to enter mini storage facility site shall be set back from the front property line by at least 7.0 meters and shall not swing outward. 3, outdoor rental spaces at mini storage facilities in commercial districts shall be set back equal to or greater than the setback of the primary building. 4, mini storage facilities located in commercial districts shall be of a higher exterior architectural standard suitable to a commercial district. And 5, building space and layout shall meet the requirements of the Alberta Building Code. And I'm available to take any questions at this time.
Councillor Billingsley.
I move that City Council give second reading to bylaw 2040-23 to amend the land use bylaw 1804-13.
Moved by Councillor Billingsley. Any discussion? Councillor Nielsen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through the chair to administration. In the presentation we just heard, there was talkage about There's talk about compliance with the scale of the project. Can I get a better understanding of what that scale that you're speaking of is? Is the scale in relation to the amount of land available, or is the scale in relation to the actual physical structure of the mall?
Yeah, through the chair to Councillor Nielsen, sorry, I can't see. It was Councillor Nielsen, right?
Yes.
The scale was in reference to the shopping center district is typically for large developments like Walmart or the shopping center. And likewise, a mini storage facility is fairly large development in terms of size that it takes up. So as opposed to in the downtown commercial district, for example, it'd be way out of scale because the development is of a smaller size. Does that clarify?
Sort of. I guess, let me ask my next question then, please, and maybe that will clarify. What would preclude the mall owners from expanding that storage area to encompass more of their land down the road?
Through the chair to Councillor Nielsen, it would still be regulated according to the setbacks and floor area minimums in the C5 zone. And it's a discretionary use, so it would not be automatically permitted if they were to apply to do that. Maybe Emily might be able to better answer.
So I'm led to believe from your response then that if they chose to want to come back and double the size of the storage facility, that would be a presentation and a request of council?
No, because it's not a DC zone, so that would be a development permit application that they would have to make to planning and development.
Okay, now you've got me. So if they wanted to increase it from what's being proposed here, what would they then have to do to make it double the size?
They would have to make a development permit application. If they wanted to further amend the land use bylaw to allow something that's not currently allowed, then it would have to come to council.
Okay, thank you. And a lot of your presentation was speaking about a number of amendments we were making, and I'm led to believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that the idea of mini storage is an approved use in industrial area, but it's not necessarily an approved in a commercial area. Would that be a correct statement?
So it's a discretionary use in our industrial zones, but we don't currently have any, we don't have it as a permitted or discretionary use in any commercial zones. So this would be the first commercial zone that would be allowed in, hence the need for all these other amendments.
And my last question is a loaded question, so I'll warn you that up front. What is the tax collection impact of simply fencing off a portion of the mall and creating a mini storage? Does it increase taxes?
That, I don't have that information. I'm not sure if Emily or Sue would have an answer to that.
So the specific tax impact may be a better question for the city assessor. However, generally, development that takes place that winds up increasing or intensifying the usage that is currently on a parcel does have an impact to increase the taxes that are drawn. So if a parcel is currently not developed extensively and there is additional development on it, quite frequently the impact is that the tax associated with that parcel goes up. But the details can be confirmed with the city assessor.
Sure. And I guess coming out of that, if we're talking about increased value to the property because of the development, unless there is an office or something built on that site, the only increased value is the cost of the fencing then. Would that be correct?
Sorry, I've been thinking about how to respond to that question. The property in question, it would depend on probably the degree of improvements that were needed to change the use of that parcel and develop the mini storage on that site. So we would need to see the specific application in order to be able to respond to that. For other C5 parcels that are currently undeveloped, the improvements would be much larger.
I guess for me, I'm having trouble wrapping my head around how this would necessarily impact or improve our community from a tax perspective or from a entrance point into our community where our mall has a mini storage facility. And especially in light of it, all the amendments we're making to make it possible so it can be in a commercial district. I will be voting no on this motion. Thank you.
Councilor Bronco.
Thank you. So C5, we're going to go to a direct control, I believe, as administration or council. And we only allow, I'm just getting some clarification on this. So we're going to go to an industrial kind of area because we allow storage facilities in industrial, but not in a commercial, correct? So
just hang on, ask a question and then wait for an answer.
Okay.
So clarification on it, it's not going to a direct control, it's making some amendments to the C5 to allow for mini storage on that land? Thank you. Go ahead.
I'm just somebody, so it's going to be a C5. It's commercial right now for malls and all that good stuff. We're basically changing it to an industrial kind of thing because we allow industrial.
No.
No? Okay. Then I'll
What if I may, what I understand is we are allowing a development into C5 with the changes that we've made.
If I may, through the mayor, to clarify, what we're doing with this specific application is amending the C5 district specifically, so that would be all parcels that fall within the C5 district, all of which happen to be in one large cluster at the south edge of the city, to add mini storage as a discretionary use. So it would not bring in any other industrial uses. It would not affect other commercial zones other than the C5 zone, but it would affect all parcels within the C5 zone. And then the mini storage use would be a discretionary use requiring review by the development officer. And the development officer would have some discretion as to whether to approve it or not based on the application received. Does that clarify, or is additional information needed?
I'm good.
Councilor Billingsley.
Thank you. I will be in favor of this, and part of it has to do with that property since Canadian Tire has left has been, for the most part, vacant or very short-term rentals that have been in there. I'm not sure if there's still caveats on that property of different types of businesses that can go into there. I know at one time that there was, which was a problem as far as future development. I'm not sure when you talk about does this improve, but I don't know necessarily if it's going to take away from what's already there. So I am going to speak in favor of this.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Todd. Clarification, is that area where the Canadian Tire, old Canadian Tire is in the place beside? Because we're looking at C District, everything, and I'm looking at here, the orange or the green. So that against the mall building where the existing Canadian Tire is in that grass spot on that side.
Through the chair to Councillor Branco. So on the map, it's that green those green parcels. And yes, I believe it is the former Canadian Tire is one of those.
Anything further? We're ready for the question. Those in favor? Opposed? Carried. I need third reading, please.
I move that City Council gives third and final reading to Bylaw 2040-23 to amend Land Use Bylaw 1804-13.
Moved by Councillor Blatz. Any discussion? We're ready for the question. Those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Looking for a motion to go into closed session, please. Councillor Blatz, those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Councillor Elliott, do you have the link?
I think so, yes.
Okay. Perfect. Looking for a motion to come out of closed session, please.
moved.
Councillor Billingsley, those in favor? Carried unanimously. Welcome back, Councillor Elliott. We have, going on to new business, do you have the motion that they prepared for you for? Yep. Looking for a motion to add franchise fees for ATCO to new business. Councillor Blatz, those in favor? Carried with over 2/3. Anything else for new business? Perfect. Okay. Was Toulouse going to speak to it or Candace? Oh, perfect. Thank you, Paul. Just make sure.
Good afternoon, Council. Administration did not have this on the initial agenda, as it was an oversight, but we have noted that we wanted to bring the ATCO franchise agreement in front of you folks. Last year, or currently, the ATCO agreement is at 33%. So Council could choose to direct administration to keep the ATCO utility franchise agreement at 33% for 2024, which would not have any impact on revenues moving into 2024. Additionally, Council could direct administration to increase it to 34%, which would provide an increase of $38,317 for the proposed 2024 revenues, or a increase to 35% in 2024. That would provide an increase of $76,635. We've provided two motions. One is left blank for Council if you would like to increase it, or if you'd like us to keep it the same. We do need a motion, as we need to respond to ATCO prior to November 1st. With that, I can conclude my presentation.
Councillor Billingsley.
I move that City Council directs administration to keep the ATCO utility franchise agreement at 33% for 2024.
Moved by Councillor Billingsley. Any discussion? Ready for the question? Those in favor? Carried unanimously. Anything further? Wonderful. Move to adjourn at 12:33 p.m. Thank you very much. Councillor Elliott, we're going to break